Have you ever asked yourself, why should you read Antigone by Sophocles? It's likely that you haven't. So, in this video, my friends and I will give you our perspective on why you should read this amazing piece. This play revolves around Antigone, who defies King Creon's decree by burying her brother Polynices. Set in ancient Thebes, the tragedy follows Antigone's sister Ismene, the rigid and prideful Creon, and his son Haemon, who tries unsuccessfully to change his father's mind. The play uses elevated poetic language typical of Greek tragedy, combining choral odes with dramatic dialogue that highlights moral conflict. Its themes revolved around the clash between state law and divine law, individual conscience versus political power, the consequences of pride, and the struggle for justice and human dignity.
Why should we continue reading Antigone nowadays? Well, I believe we should continue reading Antigone nowadays because in a way it challenges us to reflect on the relationship between personal conscience and political authority. Even though we all know this play was written centuries ago, it still speaks about modern struggles. The tension between obeying the law and doing what we feel is right, the dangers of leaders that refuse to listen, and the human cost of inflexible decisions. In a context like ours, where issues of justice are constantly present, such as discrimination, civil disobedience, corruption, etc., Antigone, in a way, pushes us to think about our own role as citizens and questioning the power instead of just accepting it blindly. What did I appreciate most about reading Antigone? Well, what I appreciated most about reading Antigone was pretty much how the play combines simplicity with profound meaning. Even though the text it is indeed short, for me every scene feels loaded with tension and moral complexity. I found mesmerizing how the characters' decisions revealed their deepest fears and values, and also how the dialogue makes you pretty much just reflect rather than just follow the plot, right? As it normally happens in a lot of plays. Something else that I enjoyed a lot was the emotional contrast between Antigone's calm determination and Creon's growing rigidity, right? So the play kept me fully engaged because it doesn't only tell a story, right? It makes you ask yourself and run into uncomfortable questions regarding loyalty, duty, and the cost of holding firm to your beliefs. And to enrich this reflection, my partner will now present a dramatic reading from Antigone, highlighting one of the most powerful moments in the play.
Even without your edict, if I die before my time, why then I count it gain. To one who lives as I do, ringed about with countless miseries, why? Death is welcome. For me, to meet this doom is little grief. But when my mother's son lay dead, had I neglected him, left him there, unburied, that would have caused me grief. This causes none. And if you think it folly, maybe, then I am accused of folly by the fool. In this passage, Antigone is expressing how her punishment, death, has no importance compared to giving a proper burial to her brother. This is a symbol of how the divine law and the loyalty to her family have more importance than the earthly authorities that fade away. This passage is interesting to us because it shows us that it is honorable to fight for what we know is right. Here we can see the theme of courage and conviction. And although it leads to her death, Antigone's love for her brother prevails over her uncle's unjust decree.
We can relate to Antigone in our perspective from the Colombian Caribbean because we can resonate with her insistence on burying her brother. That is ultimately an action of preserving his humanity and his dignity even in the face of violence. And we as a country and as a region have faced a long-term ongoing armed conflict between armed groups and the state, and the state has left some towns to fend for themselves, that have had to form communities that have to preserve and bury their own dead, even when it's not recognized by the state what's going on. And the History Memory Group of Colombia has recorded the resistance of many women in places like Maria la Baja and Los Montes de Maria, that they respond and resist with violence, just like Antigone did with her defiance of Creon's rule and burying her brother. They have done this by searching and recovering the bodies and creating the symbolic group burials of their beloved ones. And these efforts have continued even though they have been silenced or threatened by the different guerrilla and paramilitary groups that don't want this out there, and they don't want the responsibility of the dead. The literary mechanism used in Antigone is dramatic form, simple dramatic form that we can follow through and through. And the play mainly is built through dialogue between the characters that talk directly to each other, and the conflict that happens between their dialogue. But also we have the figure of the chorus that steps in to comment and to help guide the audience and the scenes and what's happening so that we can understand better. And that story moves in a straight line, and it focuses on the clash between Antigone and Creon. And the important actions, just like the burial and the discovery of Antigone and her sentencing, is what we focus on throughout the story.
Antigone by Sophocles is one of the most powerful tragedies of the ancient world, and it still speaks loudly today. To understand it better, we can compare it to works like Euripides' Medea, while a woman also challenges the limits imposed by society, or Anouilh's Antigone, that is a modern version written during the Nazi occupation, which turns the play into a symbol of resistance. In Latin America, texts like Gámbaro's Antígona Furiosa or Reinaldo Arenas' Antígona, it's a rework that meets the talk about dictatorship and repression. Even García Márquez, Crónicas de una muerte anunciada, resonates with Antigone through its sense of fate and weight of social norms. The mechanism that makes Antigone so powerful is the clash between two forms of law. Antigone, first of all, defends the unwritten laws of conscience, family, and sacred, while Creon defends the laws of right of the state and political order. The tragedy emerges because both are right, but both take their principles to the extreme side. Through the dialogue, the choir, and the slow realization of the consequences, the play shows how inflexibility and pride can destroy an entire community.